Well, we've got another night of freezing temperatures here across central Louisiana. We'll talk about how cool it will get and how long this cold weather will stick around. Plus, rain chances increase once again by the end of the work week. We certainly need that rain. Of course, we'll talk more about how much rain to expect, also where we stand on rainfall, and a look at our current drought monitor. Last but not least, breezy winds will continue into this week, and paired with some cooler temperatures, it is going to feel pretty chilly out there, especially with those gusts. I'm meteorologist Jake Lambright. Again, a lot to talk about with the forecast here in the coming days. So let's go ahead and start off with a recap of Monday's rain. We did pick up at least a little bit of rain for much of the area. Not any super impressive totals by any means, but every drop of rain counts, and this is some much needed rain that we've seen so far across the area. We'll start off with southern Beauregard Parish, central Allen, and central Evangela, where you see those little patches of blue. Those indicate radar estimates of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. Then as we get into these lighter green colors, that indicates about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain, give or take. In the Alexandria area, we really didn't see a ton in terms of rainfall, about 1/4 inch of rain. You'll see there along the Toledo Bend, roughly 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain. If I zoom things out here, you'll see really central Louisiana was one of the spots across the state that saw the most amount of rain throughout the day on Monday. In fact, since midnight Monday through the end of day, much of the area staying below 1/4 inch. Oakdale, one of the exceptions, coming in with a little over 0.6 inches of rain. Opelousas and Natchez, they're both over 1/4 inch, whereas Alexandria and Natchitoches were both under 1/4 inch. DeRidder, one of the spots that was not so lucky today, only coming in at 0.02 inches of rain. Now we've got to talk about our potential for a frost and freeze as we go into the days ahead, because of course temperatures were chilly Monday morning. We started off with a light freeze for some on Tuesday morning, and that light freeze, potentially hard freeze there very briefly, will continue into Wednesday morning. In fact, I expect a widespread freeze. Some, especially central and northern parts of central Louisiana, could see morning lows in the upper 20s. Same there along the Interstate 20 corridor. We're talking about some pretty chilly temps. Beyond that, really not expecting much in the way of a frost or freeze. This here will show you that on Friday morning we have the chance of seeing some patchy frost once again, but I'm not entirely sold on that just yet. Here's why. Here's what I've got in my forecast so far we head throughout the rest of the week. So of course, Monday night into Tuesday morning was pretty chilly. The only other night we really have to watch is going to be Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Like I said, I've got lows right now in the upper 20s. Not going to be in the upper 20s long enough for pipe bursting cold, but it will be very chilly. Make sure that your friends, family, neighbors have a warm place to stay. Make sure your pets and your plants are indoors, because it is going to get pretty chilly. Now, once things warm up, once the sun comes up Wednesday morning and we get above freezing, I'm not forecasting us to be below freezing for the rest of the 7-day forecast, and right now I don't have us anywhere near a frost. Could that change? Yes, of course. I'll make sure to give you the first alert if it does, but right now not anticipating another frost as we head through the rest of this week. So as we go throughout the next couple of days, in fact, Tuesday's wind gusts pretty strong. You'll notice those out of the north about 20 to 25 miles per hour. Then Wednesday afternoon gusts, not as bad. Temperature's also going to be a little bit warmer. We'll see those southerly gusts about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And then as we head into Thursday, we could see northeasterly gusts about 15 to 20 miles per hour once again. So it is going to be pretty breezy out there as we go through the next 7 days or so, kind of off and on. Not going to be breezy every single day, but definitely going to see a couple days where we have those gusts up to 20, maybe 25 miles per hour. All right, let's talk rain chances. It was a pretty gloomy day on Monday. Thankfully, Tuesday not dealing with any rain, Wednesday not dealing with any rain. But as we head into Thursday and Friday, rain chances are picking back up once again. Saturday, though, they're very low end, maybe some rain early on in the day, not expecting much. We're going to be mostly dry for the weekend and heading through much of the next work week as well. So when it comes to our rainfall totals, our rainfall forecast here for the next 7 days, you'll notice amounts generally anywhere from about 1 to maybe 2 inches of rain across the board. A pretty manageable amount, and again, we really need some rain. In fact, we'll take a look here at our almanac data for the Alexandria Airport, and there are a couple things I want to point out here. First off, this 1/4 inch of rain registered today at the airport is not factored into this number. Of course, this video was recorded on the first day of December. This is actually the November stats. So really, that 1/4 inch will not be added into that number for the month of November. So I want to take a look here real quick at our November stats. Here at the Alexandria Airport, we registered about 1.8 inches of rain. That's nearly 2 3/4, or a little over 2 3/4 below where we should have been for the entire month of November. Another thing I want to point out is that we were ahead on rainfall for much of 2025. Now we are below where we should be for rainfall by almost 2.5 inches. So pretty substantial amount. We've really got to catch up. Of course, that's very evident in our drought monitor, which I'll show you here in just a moment. So I want to take a look at our percentage of normal precipitation. We really want to be here in this, as close to this 100 range as we can. So anywhere shaded in the yellow color, let me see if I can get that circle. In the yellow or the light green, that's a very optimal amount of rainfall. You'll see so far this month, of course, we're in December, so let me go back. We'll take things back to the last 30 days. You'll see here in this darker red color, that's where portions of our area have only seen 5 to 25% of the amount of rain that they would typically see in the entire month of November. Those are some pretty substantial numbers. Even over the last 14 days, this darker shade of orange kind of representing 50 to 75% of the amount of rain typically seen within that 2-week period. When we look at it from a 60-day standpoint, though, things look a little bit better. Most of the area seeing about 50 to 75% of the amount of rainfall that we should, and then 120 days is where we really start to even it out a little bit more as we were receiving a little bit more rainfall within that window. We'll take a look here at the 6-month window. You'll notice the northern parts of our area seeing about 75 to 100% of our typical rainfall, which is close to where we need to be. And then as we get into that orange shading that you see here, that's about 50 to 75%. So point being, we're behind on rainfall. Thankfully, we've got more rain chances on the way, but is it going to be enough? It's really not going to be enough to close that gap. Of course, every drop helps, though. Our latest drought monitor that came out last week showing that we are in big need of some rainfall. You'll notice a patch here basically extending from Manny all the way to the city of Natchitoches and Sabine and Natchitoches pairs. That darker orange there representing severe level drought conditions. That's a level 2 out of 4 on the drought scale. Another pocket can be found across southern Allen, Evangeline, and St. Landry Parish. Even for those under level 1 drought, which is moderate, that's in the tan color, or in pre-drought conditions, the yellow, which is that dry, you'll notice still that has expanded greatly in recent updates compared to the past couple of weeks. So we really need, like I said, every drop of rain that we can get. Thankfully, more rain chances are on the way, but we really need more rain chances in the forecast to bring us back to where we need to be. All right, let's talk more about your first alert 7 and 10-day forecast. Kind of a bit of a roller coaster still. Temperatures, of course, might not break 50 degrees on Tuesday. It's going to be chilly, of course, with those winds factored in as well. It is going to be on the cooler side. Upper 50s for Wednesday, despite the cool start to the morning. Low 50s Thursday and Friday. Again, rain chances on the rise. It is nice. It is sunny for the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 60s. Really cannot ask for much better than that. We take a brief dip into the upper 50s for Monday, followed by 60s as we head through the rest of next week. Of course, I'll be keeping tabs on things, giving you updates over on KALB, over on the air, and also on our streaming platforms. You can find updates like this around the clock at kalb.com/livestream by selecting the 24/7 local weather option. Of course, I'll keep you up to date, give you the first alert to the latest as we go through the rest of this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.